Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to the third season of TakeStock Live Investor Webinar Series, which goes live every Wednesday at 15 minutes after market close. Season 3 will run into March with a strong emphasis on mining. Today is presented with Harbor Access, LLC. Harbor Access has over 75 years of collective investor relations and investor access experience. Harbor Access represents and advises micro and mega market capitalized companies optimizing their clients' visibility in the North American and European equity markets. Harbor Access brings extensive experience and professionalism to every client and customizes its work to meet their individual goals. They're on the cutting edge of investor relations and investor access, offering best practices for both of these disciplines. Now, next week, we have gold projects presented by 3 companies: Rockhaven Resources, Commander Resources, and North Arrow Minerals. We would like to thank the TMX Group and TSX Venture Exchange for helping us keep the conversation between companies and investors going in these very unusual times. We'd also like to recognize the vital support provided by Fasken, MNP, Lee Jones Gable, Olympia Trust, and also thank our supporters. We'd like to thank Calgary Meg and CIM, Sterling Capital, CHF Capital, Conduit Capital, and many others. We'd particularly like to thank InvestmentPitch Media and the Newswire for helping us get the message out. At this point, I'll hand over to my colleague and our moderator, Mark Francis. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Raj, and welcome all of you, our attendees and guest presenters. Note our disclaimer. This presentation is for information only and is not a solicitation to buy or sell stock. Companies pay fees to present at TakeStock, and TakeStock, its principal Raj Joshi, and yours truly, may have equity investments in companies which present, may consult to the companies, and make no representation or investment or other recommendation in regards to these presenting or any other companies. You should do due diligence and seek professional investment advice. Some housekeeping matters for attendees. You will note a red Reconnect tab at the top of your screen. If you lose audio, just click it and you will be reconnected. The chat board may be utilized in this session. Please be clear as to whom your question is being addressed. Today we have 3 mining companies. Each company will have a presentation with their PowerPoint, followed by a group Q&A session led by yours truly. And we encourage you to do your due diligence, go to SEDAR, and connect with the companies directly in order to get detailed information. Contact details for the presenters can be found on our website, takestocklive.com, and Raj posts them at the end of the show. Today we have Aurora Davidson, President CEO of Amerigo Resources, ARG, Paul Luden, President CEO of Essex Minerals, ESX, and Jordan Trimble, President Director of Rockridge Resources, as well as Grant Ewing, CEO. Leading off, Aurora Davidson, President and CEO of Amerigo Resources since 2020. Prior to that, she was CFO since 2003 and responsible for arranging Amerigo's US $100 million bank financing for its Chilean plant expansion. Aurora is a fluent in Spanish CPA with 30 years of international business experience in management and finance, having worked with private and public companies in the mining, engineering, and high technology sectors. Aurora, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having us here presenting for Amerigo Resources. We are a profitable long-term copper producer in Chile. We essentially do that by transforming environmental liabilities called tailings, which are the ore waste of mines, into an economic asset. Forward-looking statements, I won't bother you with that. You're all familiar with the term and with the fact that forward-looking statements essentially make you place no undue reliance on the information presented herein. So who are we? Who is Amerigo Resources? We are not a mine, but a copper factory. We do a processing of tailings that sets us apart from most players in the mining field. We are a historical copper producer. Our entity in Chile, MVC, has been doing this work since 1992, and Amerigo bought MVC in 2003. So we've been around for a long time. We have a strategic partnership with Codelco, which is the world's largest copper producer. And we have a long-term growth strategy with a focus on shareholder value. The copper factory that I referred to is MVC, Minera Valle Central, which was purchased by Amerigo in 2003, when annual copper production was 26 million pounds. Production has since increased dramatically to 55 million pounds in 2020, and we have a guidance of 60 million plus pounds for 2021. We produce copper, a sellable copper concentrate, and we also produce molybdenum. And we do that from processing both fresh and historic tailings from the El Teniente mine, which is the world's largest underground copper mine. Not unimportantly, we have a long-term power supply agreement that competitively locks in MVC's major cost, which is power. The relationship that we have with Codelco is a mutually beneficial relationship. It's a happy marriage. Codelco is the world's largest and strongest copper partner one could have. They have 11% of global production and 10% of known copper reserves. MVC has the contractual rights to El Teniente, which is the most important of the 7 Codelco mines, tailings in respect of fresh and 2 historical deposits. Codelco receives, in consideration for giving us these contractual rights to their tailings, a royalty which is based on production and copper price. MVC is strategic to Codelco as it reports production as its own. Codelco reports our production as part of their own production tally. And the material, we do a material reduction of environmental footprint by cleaning up and reducing the amount of tailings that Codelco has. Our business model is very simple. It is a business model that has been built on more than $300 million of investment at MVC since 2003. There are 2 fundamental parts of our business model. The first one is to maximize production by managing a mix of fresh and historic tailings. And the other part is to manage costs in order to maximize margin. And we do that with a very low requirement of sustaining capex of about US $6 million a year. We are a pure copper play, and we are highly leveraged to copper prices. This is our guidance for this year, 60 plus million pounds of copper production. And at different copper prices, you can see the projection and the value of the EBITDA building up as copper prices increase, going from, let's take a $3 copper price, EBITDA of 37 million US. If we take copper price of $4.80, it increases dramatically to $79 million. So it's a significant copper play, and we do very well at copper prices starting at north of $3 per pound. The numbers that I alluded to before are with our current state of operation. So nothing has to be done to achieve those numbers other than maintain an operation going in an uninterrupted way. However, we do have a growth strategy, which is essentially a rinse and repeat model of MVC. The MVC business model addresses a major environmental issue within the mining industry, which is the issue of tailings. Our business model has been proven and tested over time, and we are evaluating different expansion opportunities. The most immediate one, a near-term growth strategy, is to continue our relationship with El Teniente to have access to 2 historical tailings deposits that are still not within our contractual framework. We also have a medium-term growth strategy to tap into the other 6 Codelco mines. And on a more long-term basis, we are looking at expanding operations into other major copper tailings deposits throughout Chile. We are a company that's fully focused on ESG. Copper is a pillar of the emerging green economy. Our operations are driven by minimizing environmental impact. So we are a true participant of the circular economy, and we reduce tailings footprints and environmental risk in doing so. With respect to copper, we are fully bullish on copper. We think that there is a new global CapEx cycle that's not just particular to 2021. We envision a multi-year growth boom from copper. There is definitely a push for greener economies that are heavily reliant upon copper, and there has been significant underinvestment in the sector. So this introduces an imbalance between supply and demand that's going to be solved by price. A capitalization table, 180 million shares outstanding, 65% of which are held by insiders and management. There's a comparative table in our presentation comparing us to other mid-tier copper producers. You can see that Amerigo is very well positioned against others.
Thank you, Aurora. Aurora, we are past time, I'm afraid. Thank you very much. And next up, Paul Luden, President and CEO of Essex Minerals, a mining analyst with more than 35 years experience in resource company management, corporate finance, structuring and arrangement, and investment analysis for corporate finance and stockbroking firms in Sydney and London. He has experience with a number of publicly listed resource companies, including as CEO of BDI Mining Corp and Diamond Corp PLC, as well as having been head of equities for Lowe Baron and Company Ltd in London. Paul?
Thank you. Thanks to TakeStock for this opportunity of presenting Essex to the audience here today. Normal forward-looking statements, we're all familiar with them and take them as read. Essex Minerals was a shell company myself and my colleagues took control of in March last year. So we're in the earlier stages of building this company. We cleaned it up and we refinanced it, and we have a twofold strategy. First of all, it's to find advanced exploration projects where we can earn an interest by providing drilling money. And secondly, to find advanced exploration projects where we can leverage our backgrounds in mining corporate finance to arrange stream finance, which will provide us with stream income for the long term. So over the last 9 months, despite COVID, we've had some success on both fronts. And today we're positioned to accelerate those strategies as the years ahead. So before we look at the activities, here's a quick snapshot of the company. Small share structure. Interestingly, you'll see there's next to no warrants on issue. Management hold about, and associates about 25%. And interestingly, about 60% of the stock is held by institutions, which were brought in, who are there for the long term and because of the streaming strategy that we want to adopt. Small companies like this, management's always the key. And in addition to my background in corporate finance, many of us have long histories in this industry, both in project management, project identification, and on the corporate analysis side. Many of the people in Canada may remember Megan Lewis there. She was mining analyst at Dundee for some time. And so it's leveraging this background that we're going to build the company. First of all, I'm going to look at our streaming strategy. Everyone here, or most of the audience, would be familiar with streaming finance. It's an extremely popular and successful financing methodology in North America. Interestingly, not so much in Australia or Europe, where it's been viewed as expensive or potentially unfriendly to equity holders. I'm sure most people know how it works. The company puts up an upfront payment, which is a pre-purchase of metal to be delivered from the project over time. In Australia, go-to financing tends to be just normal plain vanilla project financing. 3 to 5 year facilities where you have to put 50% of the output has to be hedged. This is fine in times of flat or falling gold prices, but caps the upside in the long term. We announced in May last year that we've done a joint venture with a private streaming company is Essex Minerals, who has lines of credit out in New York, which they are in the process of deploying. First deal that we did with them is a small deal with some guys, ex-Newmont team, who are operating leach pad re-leaching operations in the Americas and in Chile and in Mexico. And shortly, we would hope that the first of these streams will be put in place. We'll be deploying some capital, which will be a small one, first of all, sub $5 million, but that's a stream that has the potential to repay that amount of money to us in the first 18 months or so. So that gives us cash flow. And, in the meantime, we're in the process of looking for some fairly large streams. And once those ones, one or two of those are in place, we'll be able to do a transformational deal, which will be transformational for Essex in the long term. And the reason we want to do that is, the market in North America loves streaming companies. If we just look at the IPO prices of, the major streaming companies there, when they first started off, there's now been, a 5 to 10-fold increase in the share price for investors in this. So in the case of Essex, you can consider us today an entry into our stock is like a ground floor or even pre-IPO entry into a startup streaming company. So it'll be the major focus of the company for the long term. Second strategy is project incubation and joint venture. And the two will go hand in hand. As we develop as a streaming company, we'll continue to invest some of our funds into incubating projects. So we're looking for advanced stage exploration projects in safe locations. And the first one we did was a deal we did in May of last year on Compass Creek, on 3 gold properties, Compass Creek, Cumberland, Mount Turner in Queensland. We had the opportunity to earn a 50% interest in our joint venture partner's interest by spending $1 million, which we have now completed. And we can either now buy them out or continue spending money to increase our interest in the project. And we're looking at our options right at the moment. What attracted us to these projects in Queensland, history of big epithermal gold deposits in the area. Kidston was a 5 million ounce producer for Placer, Pajingo, 3 million ounces for Battle Mountain, but underexplored compared to Western Australia. The Cumberland project was the most advanced, 9.5 kilometre structure, never had a drill hole in it, and remarkably, the first hole that we put in returned 6 meters at 18 grams, which is quite a phenomenal result for what was essentially a stratigraphic hole. The follow-up holes, not as spectacular, but no doubt we're sitting in a big system here, and follow-up exploration will be this year. We'll do some geophysics now to see if we can light up where the high-grade zones are within this area, and before we do some more follow-up drilling. But 9.5 kilometres of structure, plenty of room to host a big deposit. It's a matter of finding it. There was that first hole, quite a spectacular when you consider that there's never had a drill hole in this area before. The other project that we're moving towards is not far away, Mount Turner, where we'll be drilling a 14-kilometre structure along the top of this year, where there's been some historical production. So look forward to those drill results. Faults along that fault, historical oxide pits, but sulfides have never been drilled. So finally, investment case why you should invest in Essex. We're an experienced management team with a clear growth strategy. We have cash on hand and expected cash flow to execute those strategies, and we're looking forward to a pretty exciting year as we go ahead, both doing a transformational streaming deal, our initial cash flow, and also getting some more exploration results in from the projects that we incubate.
Thank you, Paul. Very good. And to take us home, Jordan Trimble and Grant Ewing, President, Director, and CEO, respectively, of Rockridge Resources. Jordan has a BSc and CFA and has worked in the resource industry in corporate finance and strategy and shareholder communications. He was previously corporate development manager for Bayfield Ventures up until its acquisition by New Gold in 2014. Grant Ewing is a professional geologist with over 25 years of experience in the mineral industry and the last 10 plus years in senior executive roles, previously president and CEO of Housekeeping Matters, 2014 to 17, until it was acquired by Amerigo Metals, where he continued as VP Exploration until it was acquired in turn by Centerra Gold for $300 million. Jordan and Grant, yours.
Great, thank you, and thanks everyone, and thank you for taking this opportunity to let us present a relatively new story in Rockridge Resources. Rockridge, we IPO just a few years back through Canaccord. We've set out to build a Canadian-focused mineral exploration company. The target projects that we've been looking at and acquiring are projects in good jurisdictions in Canada with high-grade potential. We have two properties that we've thus far acquired. Our flagship project is a VMS, predominantly copper deposit in Saskatchewan, just northwest of Flimflon. And we have a second asset in Ontario, just southwest of Timmins. That's a high-grade gold project called the Rainy Project. I'll just move forward into the presentation here, the disclaimer and forward-looking statements. So again, in summary, new company. What we've set out to do is to go into historical and prolific mining districts, again, in Canada. And what we're looking for are projects that have had a fair bit of historical exploration and are at an advanced stage of exploration, but haven't seen much recent or modern exploration. And then we go in and with some newer techniques and methodologies, hopefully find something that was otherwise not found by previous operators. Both the Knife Lake project in Saskatchewan and the Rainy Gold project in Ontario fit those bills. I'll let Grant take over on the project section and talk a little bit more about that. But before we get into that, just an introduction to the team here. Myself and Grant, we both run the company. We have a good mixture of management, capital markets, and technical expertise. You'll see a few of the other directors here. Joe Gallucci is the head of investment banking at Laurentian Mining Investment Banking in Montreal. Rick Kazmersky, who's a Saskatchewan-based geologist, 40-year veteran. And Ron Nedolitsky is a strategic advisor, well-known entrepreneur and geologist in the mining space. He was inducted in the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, very well-known name in our industry, and a few others to round out the board in the advisory board. The capital structure, very straightforward, 52 million shares issued and outstanding, trading around a $6.5 to $7 million valuation, and just a couple of notable and strategic shareholders there at the bottom. Management and insiders, we own over 15% of the company, and you'll see a few other institutional and family office investors as well. So I'll hand it over to Grant here to walk you through the Knife Lake project, which is our focus right now with upcoming exploration plans in 2021.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Jordan, and welcome everyone to the presentation today. Yes, our flagship project is called the Knife Lake Project. It's located in mining-friendly Saskatchewan, Canada. We're in East Central Saskatchewan, and we're just northwest of the Flimflon Snow Lake base metals belt. We're in similar geology in this district, so the geology that hosts the major base metals projects to the south extends up into our district. So far, there's one discovery at our project. It's a copper-dominated VMS system called the Knife Deposit, and our intention is to advance exploration aggressively through 2021 and discover more deposits in this very underexplored region. So when we acquired the option on this asset, our first step was a modest drill program in 2019. This was intended to verify the historic results. There have been substantial drilling completed in this asset from the 60s when it was discovered through to the late 1990s, early 2000s. We conducted about a 1,000 meter program, returned some results that were compared favorably with historic results. Some very nice high grade copper equivalent material occurs right at surface in this deposit. And our first resource estimate that we put out was approximately 4 million tons in the indicated category, grading at about a 1% copper equivalent grade, with a large inferred resource of 8 million tons at about a 0.67 copper equivalent grade. And as mentioned, our focus here is on discovery. We've got one lone discovery in this district so far, and there's multiple targets that we need to test as we go forward. Just a quick note on the Flimflon District. Of course, this is a world famous base metals district numerous mines and discoveries over the last 100 years and continuous mining in this district for that period of time. So if we look at the Knife Lake deposit on this image, you can see it's elongated. The surface projection on the left-hand slide shows the elongated deposit. It comes right to surface, and conveniently the higher grades in this deposit occur at surface, so it would make a great starter open pit should we find other deposits in the area that'll give us the enough for that economic threshold. Just a schematic of how we see the geology of this deposit. So the Knife Lake deposit is interpreted to be an overturned fold, and the deposit itself occurs in one limb, very near surface. And we project that the other limb to this fold could wrap around the west limb and be at slightly deeper depth here. This has never been drill tested, so as part of our upcoming program, we'll get some drill testing in this as well as some borehole geophysics. And the borehole geophysics in this district, the Flimflon District, has been very successful historically in locating massive sulfide deposits. So our total land package image here is about 30,000 hectares. The host rocks have been traced extensively throughout this district, and our focus is on now on this area right near the Knife Lake deposit. Within about a 3 kilometer or 6 kilometer radius, we've identified 3 priority target areas. We're just about to embark on a VTEM survey to follow up and fine tune the targeting in these areas. And that'll lead to the first drill program in terms of exploring in this district in the last couple of decades. So we're quite excited about the upcoming program. A couple of shots here of what we're chasing: high-grade copper, chalcopyrite, and core. And we probably don't have much time to talk about our other gold asset.
I'm afraid you're over time now.
We'll save that for next time. Thank you very much.
Indeed. Thank you. And now, thank you, Grant and Jordan. And now if we can bring back all of our presenters for the Q&A. So we now have you all. Good. So the first question relates, can you be more explicit on your specific exploration objectives and near-term exploration objectives? And in the case of Amerigo, do you have any near-term tailings processing plans for improvement? So let's go with Grant or Jordan, and then Paul, and close with Aurora on this question.
Okay. Do you want me to take that one, Jordan?
Sure.
Yeah, so our upcoming program we're just going to mobilize here in the very near future is the first VTEM survey conducted on the Knife Lake area historically, and this is modern day geophysics will apply here. We'll cover the 3 primary target areas we've identified: the Knife Lake deposit itself, the depth extension will be tested, as well as 2 proximal target areas. We'll do about 39 kilometers of this VMS survey. And this will lead to prioritization of drill targets for the next stage, which is drill testing these high priority targets.
Okay. In the case of Essex, our immediate target will be in the Cumberland project area, where we'll go in now. We've got some drill core over that big discovery hole, test that with some various geophysical techniques to see if it shows, what lights up the best, and we'll run some test lines over the main areas. Meanwhile, we'll look to mobilize a rig once the field season gets underway again on the Mount Turner project, where there's 40 kilometers of structure there that's never been tested. So, we think we're looking for a 1 million ounce near surface target that we'll be starting to drill off this year.
My turn?
Aurora?
Yeah. Our current contract covers the El Teniente fresh tailings and the contractual rights for the exploitation of 2 of El Teniente's historical tailings deposits. In the short term, our next objective is to incorporate the remaining 2 additional historical deposits that El Teniente has into our existing contractual arrangements.
And Aurora, a follow-up on that from Richard Stoneman. What steps is Amerigo taking to improve copper recovery from fines in your mill? So that comes from Richard Stoneman.
Yeah, we started a comprehensive optimization program last year. We have obtained very good results in terms of having more predictable and a stronger recovery from the coarse fraction. We're finding it difficult to meet the objectives that we had for the fines fraction. So we're conducting additional laboratory work and additional optimization this year focused on the gap that we need closing the fines recovery. So that is work in progress, and essentially right now it's all in the lab.
Okay, very good. The next one for Grant, Jordan, and Paul, and let's start with Paul. You're fully funded, I believe, each of you, for the next phase. For how many phases of exploration are you fully funded, and what do you see as the timing from that?
In our case, yes, we have cash on hand to execute the strategies that we currently want to do, but our strategy is to achieve cash flow from streams. So we're looking at putting our first small staged growth stream in place in the next 3 months that will return to us more than sufficient cash to continue any of the exploration that we want to do, but also allow us to grow as a streaming company from that point on. So first cash flow coming in the next 12 months, next 12 to 18 months, we would be looking at around the 5 million mark from the first stream, and we're looking for deals that will give us 10 to 20 million a year of free cash flow.
And we're fully funded for this current initial program at Knife Lake, so there'll be some news out on that shortly as we commence the exploration. We've got enough cash to start a drill program. We will be looking to raise a bit of money at some point, though, to fund the drill program in its entirety. One of the things we are looking at is now having completed the 100% earn-in at our gold project in Ontario. We are looking to bring in a partner company or sell the asset. It's ideally located or strategically located adjacent to the Newmont's Borden project, and there's a lot of regional exploration activity and interest in the project. So that is one thing we are looking at.
Okay, good. And for all three of you, and on this one, why don't we go Aurora, Paul, and then Grant, Jordan. Talk about local community relationships and any challenges you see forthcoming.
Yeah, that's a good question. We have excellent community relations. MVC is essentially a suburban operation. We are located just on the outskirts of a city very close to Santiago. So we're fully integrated within the community. We have no pollution risk. We share water rights with the local agricultural communities. And as I mentioned in my presentation, one of our key presentation cards is the fact that we are reducing an environmental liability rather than creating an environmental problem. So the community is very cognizant of that and very supportive of the MVC operation.
In our case, it doesn't matter where you're operating in the world. Landholder relations are integral to success in our business. In our case, in the streaming deals we're looking at in South America, they've all been existing mining operations previously. So there's a known history there, and the partners that we're dealing with have extremely good landholder relations, and that's important. The community relations in Australia, it's North Queensland is a mining friendly location in a mining friendly country, so there are no issues for us on those projects there.
And on for Rockridge at Knife Lake in Saskatchewan, has been ranked in the top 5 mining jurisdictions globally consistently over the last several years, and a big part of that is the relative straightforwardness of the permitting. At our project at Knife Lake, we have a very good working relationship with the locals and local community. Terralogic Exploration manages that for us. They've been active in Saskatchewan and Western Canada for a couple of decades now. And I don't know, Grant, if you want to add anything to that or not.
Yeah, and you know, the nearest First Nations community is about 20 kilometers north of our most northerly boundary on the claims at the Knife Lake, and we have very good relations with that group. We've hired people from that area for all of our programs to date, and we'll continue to do that to keep relations strong.
Very good. So now I'm going to move to some specific questions for each company, starting with Amerigo. Aurora, in the past, there have been some grade consistency surprises from the extant tailings. Has any drilling been undertaken to provide greater predictability going forward on those?
Yes. Since 2018, we revamped the drilling work that is done on an annual basis at NBC. And we changed the technique. We used to do reverse air drilling. We're now doing sonic drilling just to get some additional information that our guys were needing, both in terms of grade and the size of the particles. So that is in place. In 2018, we drilled 13 holes. On average, since then, we've been doing about 15 holes per year. Our drilling campaign for 2021 takes place in the next month. So it's something that we didn't have before that is giving us additional information and is reducing significantly any mining plan surprises.
For Essex, presuming the re-leach projects are reprocessing of old tailings, what metallurgy has been performed to date on the proposed re-leach operations?
Well, they're not exactly tailings. These are the original heap leach pads. So the projects were large, you know, between 8 and 30 million tons of heap leach pads to begin with, and you know, conventional heap leaching recovers. It leaves behind about 30% of the gold in the pad, mainly because the solutions just couldn't get to it. The process that we're funding is called pressure leaching, and they drill steel cased holes down into the pad, which they inject the cyanide fluid into to basically, in a controlled fracking, almost fluff up the pad and reactivate the original leach process. Now, as each of those holes go down, you recover material which we put in for standard metallurgical test work, cyanide bottle roll test work, and so we've got a pretty good idea of what's being expected metallurgically from the pad when it's reactivated.
So you're going to be recovering gold, but the first projects were actually copper projects, right?
No, the first projects are gold. First projects are previously mined gold heap leach in Chile and Mexico.
Okay, so they're gold. So you're not going to have a problem with the copper gold issue and cyanide leach. So
no, we wouldn't expect any.
Good. Let's turn to Rockridge.
Great.
So, in regards to Knife Lake, is the remobilization event that you presume to have, would it presumably have increased the grade from the larger deposits which you may be seeking?
Yeah, why don't I answer that one? Yeah, so the at Knife Lake, we have the known deposit that we think is represented by a remobilized portion of what we think is a larger primary VMS deposit. And this is based on general observations by geologists on the mineralogy, mineral textures, and the metal ratios in the deposit. And this volcanic stratigraphy that hosts the Knife Lake deposit is mapped extensively throughout our land holding, and it's highly deformed and folded. And so it provides some very good exploration targets for future drill testing. And at the Knife Lake deposit itself, we see a real thickening of the deposit in the center portion. And this we think is due to drag folding. So this larger regional fold through the system, through the land package, again, provides for excellent regional targets as we see some repeat of potential repeat of the deposit styles throughout the land claims.
Okay, and the next question for you. What is the distance from Flimflon, and how much in the way of road work would be required if you, in fact, you did have a mine?
Yeah, so we're about 135 kilometers northwest of Flimflon. We've got a major hydroelectric facility that lies in the community of Sandy Bay, and that's about 45 kilometers south. And then the hydro line from that facility is about 20 kilometers south of the knife deposit. So we're quite well located with that kind of infrastructure. And in the past, winter roads have been pushed from Sandy Bay to the knife deposit. And so though we'll use air access for the current programs, but there's reasonable infrastructure in the region and winter road access can be gained in the future.
Okay, good. Let's go back to Aurora, whom we lost, and I think we have back. In regards to potential expansions, and I'm assuming in this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the two nearby tailings are proximate to your existing operation. But in terms of the others that are further away, are they of similar grade and scale for your existing operation at MVC?
The nearby deposits, which are short-term focus, are smaller in size than Cauquenes is, for example. But one of them has very good grade characteristics. It's too early on to provide more additional information on that. Other mines at Codelco have El Teniente is a major mine of Codelco, so other mines do have tailings deposits that are not necessarily as big or as old as Cauquenes is, but notwithstanding, they're still quite interesting for us. What we're planning to do with that going forward is essentially replicate the model that we've done at MVC, and also replicate our funding strategy, which would be through bank debt, so that any required capex would not represent the requirement to go to the market and dilute shareholders.
Very good. Thank you, Aurora. I think we're pretty close to the end of the specific questions, and we're just about at the top of the hour. So what I'd like to do is let each of you summarize what investors should look for in terms of milestones over the upcoming 12 months. And why don't we start with Grant and Jordan, then move to Paul, and close with Aurora.
Great. Well, thanks again. And a few things to look forward to for Rockridge. Immediate future is the exploration at Knife Lake. As Grant pointed out, it's the first time that this regional field work has been carried out using modern techniques in geophysics. Given the geology and the type of deposit that we currently have at Knife Lake, we feel that there's a good opportunity to discover additional satellite deposits or the primary source of the mineralization. We feel that we can do that in this upcoming drill program, so that's a key catalyst. And secondly, look out for news on our other asset, Rainy, and a potential partnership at that project.
In case of Essex, we're the first streaming deal is probably going to be a pivotal piece of news coming out for us, and hopefully we'll have news out on that in the next short while here. And then following that up with a transformational streaming deal that will transform the company, and hopefully that's in the first half of this year. In the meantime, we'll continue with the exploration on Queensland projects, either in our own right as a joint venture funder, or we start as a spinco. But there's some pretty straight up large drill targets there that are going to follow on, provide plenty of news flow in the second half of the year.
Okay, February the 18th, we're releasing our annual results for 2020. It's gonna be an important release for us. It reflects the copper prices that are pervasive in the market right now, and it changes the fundamental structure of our balance sheet significantly. So I think that's the first big announcement for us. We continue to be focused on meeting our quarterly production and cost guidance. If we do that at current copper prices, our EBITDA for this year is going to be north of $50 million. So that's a significant milestone to look forward to. And just the consistency of results quarter to quarter is the name of the game for us in 2021.
Very good. Thank you, all of you, to our presenters. May you have further success in advancing your projects and businesses. Aurora Davidson, Amerigo Resources, ARG. Paul Luden, Essex Minerals, ESX. And Jordan Trimble, Rockridge Resources, ROCK. And to you, our attendees, thank you for your time today. Do go to today's company's websites, learn more about them, and check in at TakeStockLive.com. Today's PowerPoint decks should be posted there by tomorrow. Be determined in your due diligence and ask tough questions. We'll be back next week, 10th of February, with gold projects. This is Mark and Raj signing out from TakeStockLive.com.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.